Right.
We are, on our next segment here, glad to have with us a frequent guest on Where You Live with Gene and Tony. Anytime we want to get an idea of what is something that's correct legally, we go to the best legal minds, and that, of course, would mean we go to none other than Dan Greenstein at Bernick Lifson. Hello, Dan.
Hello, you guys.
Hi,
Don't introduce me after that last story about the attorneys.
How many frivolous lawsuits do you defend yourself against, Dan?
Well, there are quite a few now, and one thing that the Internet has done, among the many good things, it's made it very easy for people who are not lawyers but, are capable Internet searchers to bring lawsuits on their own, whether there's merit or not.
Yeah.
And force an association to respond in kind and start spending money.
Yeah.
And they know just enough to be dangerous, don't they?
Exactly. I have one client, an association that has a homeowner who didn't pay dues for 5 years. We brought an action against him to collect some money. To make a long, painful story short, on his own, without any training and use of the Internet, he brought 3 different lawsuits. They went to the Court of Appeals 2 times, went to the Minnesota Supreme Court 1 time. He never won one motion. He never won one thing, but he just kept on doing it. Bottom line is he lost his unit to the association as a result of all the fees they incurred in having to fight with him.
Oh, my Lord.
I mean, it's as if there's just no common sense with some folks.
That is exactly true, and it's very it's very much in focus with condominium and townhome living.
Yeah, it is.
Well, one of the reasons we wanted to have you on the show today, Dan, is a couple weeks ago you had emailed me, and you're so good about doing that ever so often to send out reminders of just good policy, best practices to have so that there are no troubles like this, that the association doesn't get into any kind of embattling issues. And I thought you had some great advice geared towards property managers or towards a board, people self-managed, where people are entering into contracts on behalf of the association. And I wanted you to take a few minutes to share some of your thoughts with our listeners here today.
Well, Gene, one thing that happens all of the time, and I this is not just with associations, but in all forms of business, the attorney will get a call. Hey, I've got this huge dispute, or I've got this lawsuit, and the attorney will say, well, let me see the contract that, it all stems from. And the client will send over this contract which has no protections, it has no safeguards, and really the client had no business signing it. And, with associations, when you're doing improvements, roofs, decks, siding, you can be talking about a lot of money.
That's right.
And most vendors will send over a 1 or 2 page contract that'll specify everything they're going to do, but in terms of the contract language, in terms of protections for the client, it's usually silent. And one of my pet peeves has become people that don't want to spend $200 to have their attorney review a contract for hundreds of thousands of dollars before they sign it.
Yeah.
And when something goes wrong, they're mad at the attorney.
Yeah, and again, you're not talking about a small contract for a couple $100, but you're talking about these that go tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, sure. When you think about some of the larger condominium or townhome associations, when they enter into contracts, many of them are over $1 million. Many others are over $100,000, and that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, excuse me, Tony.
I was just going to say, you make an excellent point, Dan, and I have sat in board meetings and advised boards about getting an attorney's opinion and heard these really crazy arguments about how they don't want to spend the money, it's not worth it. Yeah, it's a tough one.
You know what? It's so easy for an attorney to review, let's say, a construction contract and offer some advice that will go a very long way towards protecting the association in the event there's a dispute.
Yeah.
Well, that's some good thought for everybody with a contract. I want you to also concentrate a little bit on the property management professionals, some things that they need to think about when looking at contracts. But, Dan, we need to take a break. Can you stay with us for one more segment?
Sure, let's take a break.
Okay. Folks, we're talking to attorney Dan Greenstein. You're listening to Where You Live with Gene and Tony on AM 1280, The Patriot. Don't go away. We'll be back after these messages.